Hi, everybody, and welcome to our monthly Bike Walk Commission meeting. We are going to start with public comment, and we have a few members of the public here, I think 4 now. So put your hand up if you'd like to make a comment.
Tanner, I guess I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Mike Matthews down in 20 Day Street. I'm kind of new to the community. I've met a few of you, Audrey, obviously you, Tanner, and a few others. I just want to say I thought that was a fantastic, what was that, 2 weeks ago now, kind of unveiling of the Sono bike rack over here on Washington Street. And that is it. Just a little bit of kudos for that.
Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the kudos. And thanks for being involved in that. I think I saw you there, did I not?
Yes.
That's right. Thanks for coming. I'm going to say a little bit more about that here in a minute in the announcement section. Any other members? Oh, Colin made it. Awesome. Thanks for coming, Colin. Anybody else from the public want to make a comment? All right. Well, with that, then we're already 5 minutes ahead of schedule, which is awesome. I'm going to go ahead with announcements. So the bike rack unveiling that Mike mentioned, for anybody who wasn't present, we had a good group there. I think we had around 20 people there at the press conference right there on Washington Street. The new rack is in the shape of the word Sono, which looks great. We had the press conference, so the mayor spoke and Jim Travers spoke and I spoke. Sherry just joined. Hi, Sherry. You know, I'll pause, in fact, because we're still technically in the public comment section. So if you have a comment, Sherry, now is the time.
I just thought it was great. I read the articles in the paper about the Bike Walk Commission's, like, I guess, I don't know what to call it, but the welcoming of the bike racks.
Yes.
And I thought that was a really good article. I thought what you said was wonderful too. And I just wanted to comment on that. Yeah, so thank you.
Well, thank you. And thanks for attending our meeting tonight. I noticed that Ben also just joined. Ben, we'll get to this agenda item in a minute, but Ben's been very helpful over the last couple of weeks with the bike rack wish list. Ben, do you want to submit any public comment right now before we dive into the agenda? All right, I'll move on then. Oh, and Dawson's here. I do want to introduce Dawson really quick because I invited him. Dawson lives around the corner from me, and he's an NCC student. He's studying nursing. Dawson, is your audio working? Do you want to introduce yourself really quick? I think maybe he's still working on audio. So yeah, I'll finish that first agenda item and then I'll see if Dawson's connected yet. So yeah, as Sherry mentioned, I gave a few words after Jim and the mayor. We also had a couple business owners. We had Brad Kerner from Eco Evolution, who is a great friend of the commission, at least as of late. I've connected with him a few times. He offered 10% off to anybody who bikes to his store. So if you've been meaning to go visit that, visit his shop, I encourage you to and get that discount. Let's see, in terms of work that we've been doing, this I guess wasn't a formal act of the commission as much as it is just a news item, but I've been working with the bicycle co-op, and on Sunday we had a repair event and there was a bike left over that somebody had brought that was basically unrideable but still looked like it was in pretty good condition. And we thought we should just lock it up to this rack because a lot of people, I think 3 separate people have messaged me and said, hey, the rack looks great, but no one can tell that it's a bike rack. So we took this old bike, and actually Dawson, who was with me that day, donated his old cable lock, because he has a better lock at home, to keep this bike locked up. And then Mike Heslin, who is actually a former member of the commission, he was our mechanic that day. He took it over there and locked it to the rack. So hopefully that will give some people some indication that the rack is actually a bike rack and not just a piece of art, although it definitely is both. So Dawson, are you connected to audio? Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Dawson. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Dawson. Dawson has been particularly involved in the bicycle co-op with the repair events. We have Alex who just joined. Alex is another member of the public who's been helping out with co-op events and other things. Alex, do you want to say hi? Do you have any public comment?
No public comment. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. See some familiar faces, and stoked to be here.
Cool, thanks. So the next announcement that I had, Congressman Jim Himes did a ride with some of us. It was actually the day after the bike rack unveiling. I was contacted by Josh Goldstein, who's a member of the Common Council, and he was working with Congressman Himes' office to get this ride going. Last year, Congressman Himes actually did a ride from Westport all the way to the Massachusetts border. He's a very avid cyclist and is excited about getting some money for cycling infrastructure. So we appreciate that and joined him on this ride. We just did the length, of the NRVT from the aquarium up to Union Park by the library and back. But it was well attended, and I think it got some good coverage too. So hopefully that will lead to more investment in our biking and walking infrastructure. Also, by way of announcement, the Connecticut State Legislature extended they suspended the gas tax, and along with that, suspended all fares for statewide buses. So any public bus in the state of Connecticut is free through the 1st of December. So feel free to take advantage of that. I think in particular, there's an effort to get people to beaches and to state parks on public transportation. So for example, I think our nearest state park is Sherwood Island. And if you can take a CT Transit bus to Westport, and then you can transfer to the Wheels to You service, which is the on-demand transit service, to Sherwood Island. So you can get to the beach for free on public transit. So if somebody tries that, let me know, because I want to hear how it goes. Last announcement is the bike rack wish list. So this was something that happened pretty quick. I sent an email out to everybody on the commission and everyone who has attended a commission meeting recently to make it as inform people as much as possible. But TMP contacted me and said, hey, we want to buy a bunch of bike racks. We would like some help figuring out where they might go. So Ben Handpeter, big kudos to Ben, who jumped in and helped me brainstorm and helped me get a latitude longitude pair for every single idea that we had. We had like 150 different ideas. We put them all in a spreadsheet. And I can share that spreadsheet. I think I've emailed it out to a bunch of people. Delaney, I don't know if you can put a link to a Google sheet in the notes, but I will send it to you if you want to do that, because it is publicly visible. And we welcome any public comment from any member of the public who wants to contribute to our brainstorming, our wish list for where we might have a bike rack in the city. But we got a lot of ideas already. So if you have an idea, it might already be on there. But if it's not, we'd love to hear it. Anyway, Ben and I went through and cleaned up the list and then prioritized it kind of in 3 categories: high, medium, low priority. We got about 70 ideas that are on public property, most of them on sidewalks and a lot in parks as well. And then about as many, 70 or 80, on private property where we'd have to actually go talk to the business owner. So that's a project, that's kind of a slightly more well-defined project now that somebody could take on if you want to start contacting businesses about putting a bike rack on their property. Greg, do you want to talk about that later during your section? Because I was talking to Jim and Garrett. They said that they're working on a bike rack application process.
Yeah, so I mean, I could touch on it now while we're talking
sure.
about it. So we did, as we discussed earlier months, we did put out an RFP. Unfortunately, just with discussing with some of the more common bike rack companies, they don't, with the prices fluctuating right now, as you know, and then price is increasing in a lot of different areas. A lot of these companies don't want to get locked in on pricing for a lot of bike rack and bike rack materials. So in that case, we're going to look at ordering kind of like bulk order of racks. Obviously, we want to have, as we discussed previously, we want to have locations already locked in, as we have limited storage facilities to keep all these bike racks. So we definitely don't want to just buy racks just to have them in storage. We want to buy them, get them installed, know where they're going, and not have them sitting around. And on top of that, also, We also are looking to include, put together a kind of on-call services for smaller concrete infrastructure projects, especially to pour the pads. So like previously, for instance, Laz helped us out because it was on, within their parking jurisdiction. So they were able to pour pads for bike racks. So, a lot of these areas are going to need concrete pads before we're able to put them in the ground. So that's another kind of, extension of this as well. But we definitely want to, put together something, where we can put in, a bulk order. And, obviously, you guys did the scavenger hunt last year and or last month, I should say, for Bike Month. And, we kind of hope to have more artistic racks, especially going forward, kind of like Sono did theirs, maybe something for Wall Street, maybe something on Calf Pasture Beach as well. Obviously, I know we have some there, but maybe some artistic ones that are aesthetically, more appealing and kind of draw the eye, and then maybe add that as a component next year to the scavenger hunt for artistic, bike racks as well. So, there's still a lot of things, obviously this list is a great help to us, and we're going to, go through and look at all these locations and review them and see what we can do with them and put together a list with some of your recommendations that you put together.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, my goal with this list is that TMP can never again come to us and say, we don't have anywhere to put a bike rack.
Right. Yep.
The list will never run out.
The next step for us is we'll review the list. We'll go do some site visits to as many locations as we can and kind of start that process of looking where we can put them and what's needed to install them.
Great. And I understand that you've got additional people power this summer because you have an intern. Is that right?
Well, we've had an intern, Thomas.
Oh, that's right.
He's been with us for almost a year now. So he's been around. So
man. Sounds like
but still not enough. We still are all working on many projects right now. So, but this is something that we're definitely definitely want to do and moving forward. So
great. Well, we, on behalf of I think the whole commission, we appreciate the renewed focus on bike parking around the city. I shared this anecdote in my remarks at the press conference on Washington Street, but bike parking is the number 2 reason, or the number 2 criterion that determines whether somebody decides to use a bike when they want to get somewhere. The first one obviously is how safe is the street, which we're also working on, right? But bike racks in a lot of ways are easier to do than actually changing the street configuration because they're small, they're localized, and they are honestly pretty cheap. So I think we can do a lot of good by installing some more bike racks. So I think that's all the announcements that I have listed here on the agenda. I guess there's a few more announcements that are kind of within the context of the budget modifications. But in order to vote on the budget, we'll need Judd to be here, and he's coming later. Ben's got his hand up though. Go ahead, Ben. I cannot hear you. But you're not muted through Zoom. It must be your computer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was just going to ask, did you mention how we linked the spreadsheet to the existing bike racks map so that folks can see where we put everything a little more visually?
Yeah, let me just share the screen because that's a fun thing to look at. Okay, so first of all, here is what the wish list looks like. We've got racks on racks on racks, 146 rows. And each row is just a location. It's not necessarily a single rack because the standard rack that we're looking at is something along these lines. It's just a single hoop. And in some places, it makes sense to put several next to each other to form like a little corral almost. So in a lot of places, like on Washington Street, a single spot would just be on the sidewalk with one. But like at Veterans Park, for example, we'd put like a big corral because it's a popular public park. Or like in the Main Street lot, this is a city-owned parking lot that's just off of Wall Street on Main Street. And so that could be like a little bike parking hub for the Wall Street area. And that would have a lot more. So, and we haven't even populated all of these because a lot of them are on private property, like the Norwalk Inn or Sunset Grill. But anyway, just the ones that we fleshed out, we totaled 85 locations and 147 racks. So like I said, we should keep TMP in business for a long time. And whatever manufacturer they pick, we'll keep them in business too. Anyway, we have locations over here. And so those locations made it nicely onto our bike rack map. If you haven't seen this before, this is a publicly accessible map. And there's a link to it on our commission's website. I maintain it, and anybody else who finds something that's missing from this map is welcome to add it or to tell me so I can add it. But I went ahead and imported all of our ideas onto this map. And it's a little cluttered when you zoom out this far, but we sorted our ideas into 3 or 4 categories. The highest priority is green. So there's a lot on Washington Street. There's a lot up by Wall Street, a couple over at the parks as well. We got a medium priority kind of spread all over, and then low priority is kind of nicer to have, or kind of infill locations that are in between higher priority locations. And then a bunch that are unclassified because it's on private property. But this is publicly accessible, as is the sheet, but there's a link to this map on our website. So if you want to go explore it, just go to the commission's website. It's in like that first or second paragraph. There's a link to it. And if you just turn on the bike rack wish list layer, you can see it. And then you can turn it off if you want to see only where the existing racks are. Cool. Although I did just this morning, I found a rack that's not on this list at the Rowayton Library. There's a small rack. It's not maybe the most functional rack, but it does exist up at the Rowayton Library. So I'm going to add that. Anyway, any questions about bike parking? Audrey's got her hand up. Go ahead, Audrey.
Yeah, I was at the Sono unveiling of the beautiful bike rack on Washington Street. And I'm glad that there's going to be some bikes parked there, so people get the idea that that's a bike rack and not just a gorgeous sculpture. Like parking signs for when they're, when people are driving around, they're looking for parking, and there are sort of like the big P. Are there signs that indicate that there's bike parking down the way?
That's a great question. So yeah, I'm familiar with one such sign. I think either on the front door or right inside the front door of the train station in South Norwalk, there are multiple signs that say we have bike parking. It's at the far end of the garage, which Greg is going to update us on because that's going to change.
Right. Well, for me, it actually might serve an extra purpose, which lets drivers know that there is a bike parking and that there are bicyclists around. That there might be some bike activity, in which case they need to maybe slow down and pay attention a little bit. So if you see a bike parking sign, it lets you know that there's some kind of bike activity, even though we might not have dedicated lanes or something like that. I'm just wondering, it kind of puts an awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had that idea as well about the this rack right here. There's a rack behind the movie theater in South Norwalk. That's a very, very functional rack, but it's not very visible, especially if you're out here on the business strip. And so I've even written this down before. And maybe Greg, if you could comment on how feasible this is, but if we could get just some kind of sign, maybe we would have to coordinate with a business owner like the movie theater to put like just on that brick pillar that says bike parking in the back or something like that. Is that something that would fall under TMP?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely look at, the catalog of signs and get some parking signs up. Obviously we don't want to over clutter, and this goes for all roadway sign types, not only bike parking. We try not to over clutter signage, but, there definitely does, valid reasons to put bike parking signs up, especially ones that are hidden, just to, make cyclists aware. And Audrey, as you alluded to, also for vehicles as well. So, we can definitely take a look at that and see how we can kind of implement those where, some bike parking facilities are kind of hidden. And just to make everybody aware that there is bike parking in the area, especially for those higher density areas.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. Christine's got her hand up. Go ahead, Christine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I was a little bit late offline, but and thank you for clearing that up, Greg. I have seen bike racks in other cities that identify it as a bike rack, and I thought that was kind of cool. I think it's a great idea, Audrey, and a good use of money of our funds. And also, I guess this is more of a comment. Is about like the future of bike racks, right? So there's scooters, there's electric bikes. Like we don't want to put all these racks and buy all these racks if they're going to become obsolete or they're not functional for the purposes of the mobility transformation that we seem to be in sort of a revolution with. So that's just a suggestion thinking ahead. about that. And lastly, I just love that idea Sam had about a bike corral for these events, the NICE Festival, the Oyster Festival. There's all these festivals. People would ride their bikes if there's like a place that we could have valet parking. But maybe if there's enough bike racks around, we wouldn't need that. Thank you for the time.
Well, thanks, Christine. Actually, I do want to say something about the event idea. I remember last year, Sam was in talks with the people at the Oyster Festival about doing valet parking. Is that what you're thinking about? Yeah, okay. And I don't remember how, but it didn't happen last year. And Sam, unfortunately, is like super busy. For those of you who don't know, Sam is one of our commissioners. He's gone because he's in Europe. He works for Cannondale, and the bike industry is absolutely nuts right now. So he's working way more hours than anybody should work, but out of necessity. So that's why he's gone. And I don't think that he could take that on again this summer. But if somebody else wants a project, if you could get in contact with the Oyster Festival people, Sam could probably even connect you. But if you could, if somebody wants to head up bike parking, like valet parking at the Oyster Festival, I think that was a great idea that almost happened last year. And I think it would be easy to, with just a little bit of grease, could happen again this year. So if somebody wants to volunteer now or later, you can contact me, or you can put your hand up in the meeting, and I can make that connection happen. All right, back to the agenda. We're still missing Judd. Hope Judd joins soon. I'm going to stop sharing because you'll have this agenda anyway. Yeah, we'll come back to the budget. Let's go, Christine. You've got a budget item, or a budget item, an agenda item for the scavenger hunt report. We had an event on the month of May.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And Emily is here, and please chime in, Emily. Emily did a ton of work around this. Colin, please chime in. So we, just to catch people up, if you haven't heard, we have worked with the poet laureate of Norwalk, William Hayden, who created a poem for this event, the Bike Rack Challenge. So we've had people upload photos to a website, and the poem had 14 stanzas, and we put those stanzas around each rack, public rack, the city rack, that is attached. I don't know if we could show a picture of that, but it may not matter. But anyway, so it was for the month of May, and we were going to have a culminating event with William Hayden reading the poem and then giving away the t-shirts. We had partnership with Contemporary Printmaking, who printed the poem on the t-shirts. So, and then William Hayden, the Arts Commission paid for the t-shirts, and and then the Contemporary Print Shop the museum made it for free, these t-shirts. So we ordered 35 t-shirts. It was very low cost. And Emily, I don't have the data on how many people participated this month in the challenge. But that would be the next step, is giving the t-shirts. I see in one email today, there was a declared winner. Maybe it was only one person that participated. I have no sense of that.
We had a lot of views and 27 submissions, and we had one person that completed the poem with all the bike rack lines.
Well, that's fantastic. 27 submissions is a success in my book. So, and I think every 27 should get a t-shirt. So hopefully we can figure out how to do that. I don't know, like where we could have an event or when. But the time frame was it was a pretty crunch time. This is the first time we've done something like this. It was nice that we partnered up with William Hayden and the other nonprofits and gave him a little bit of publicity. He's got an event reading he's doing at the library, but I don't really want to kind of steal his thunder on that or piggyback with that. I did talk to him about that, but so did I leave anything out? Colin and his wife was so good to make these beautiful signs, and we split them and we put them around the 35 racks in town. Oh
yeah, Christine, I was going to ask who actually distributed those.
So Colin and we split it up. Yeah, and we'll be the ones.
That happened like overnight without me even knowing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and now we have to probably take them down unless we decide we're going to continue to run this. But with 27 submissions, I don't know. What do people think, Colin? What do you think?
Pretty exciting. I'm actually happy to hear that it was that high. It's like, I mean, I would have dreamed that it would have been much better than that, but that's more than I was feeling we're gonna end up doing it. So I'm pretty pretty happy with that number. And I agree, everyone gets a t-shirt.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have some sort of little like event where we're handing the shirts out, contemporary print shops, give them some more publicity, maybe with Bill there, something very informal.
Yeah, maybe that would be good to do it at the print shop since they
Yeah.
donated time. So, or I
Yeah.
mean, Matthews Park is also an accessible area by bike as well as by vehicle if people want to drive.
Yeah, it's right there on the NRVT.
Okay, so I might try to plan that for June if that's okay. An outdoor event, a little thing where Bill's reading the poem, something like that. I'll see what I can pull together.
Something informal, you know,
Yeah.
nothing too formal.
Okay.
That's my take.
And then Emily, maybe you could give me the names or something or the contact of how we reach these people. And then we could submit the photos of them with their shirts and stuff or whatever.
Will do, yeah.
Dawson's got his hand up. Sorry, Emily.
I think I'm still on the race of getting my t-shirt. So I'm kind of like on the first, now I'm the first one and the second one. I'm still in the race.
Well, we'll keep it going then. I mean, we don't have to end this. It's up to the group, you know, because I think it's kind of a nice tourist attraction for the Norwalk people to participate. It's kind of a fun. We could maybe extend it, but without the shirts, I don't know. And I thought about, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, the shirts are only one component of it, right? I think that the biggest problem with leaving the signs up right now is that the QR code that's on the signs links to the page, the WooBox page that Emily set up that is currently, it just says ended. Here, I'll share.
Okay.
Emily, you can just turn it back on, right? Cool.
I can turn it back on.
Yeah, let's turn it back on at least until Dawson can finish, because Dawson didn't find out about it until like halfway through the month.
Okay.
And obviously everybody else, right? But it does say something about Bike Month on there, I think. So maybe in the long term, it might make sense to take them down. But I think that using the bike racks as advertising was a really neat idea. That I'm glad that Christine and Emily that you thought of that, because we could use that for other things too. We could just use that space as standing ad space for the commission, essentially. Like people who are actually using the racks are like the kind of people that we want to show up to these meetings and to say, help us to make the city better for you and for everybody else that's using the racks, and make it easier for other people to start using them. So I would love to see. Does anybody have any idea if there's an issue with that? I mean, it seems like for the month of May it worked great.
Yeah, Tanner, I think if we're talking about that, that's a whole other discussion, and I like it. But we need to figure out some sort of a semi-permanently or permanently affixed, signboard to put information on if that's how we want to use them, and that's going to be somewhat rack dependent.
Yeah,
and
totally.
That's maybe a question for Greg. I mean, maybe it's something that needs to get mounted near the racks, or maybe not necessarily to them, because there's several different styles.
Yeah, well, I'm not thinking about it. To me, it doesn't seem like it's so critical that it's permanent or that it's like exhaustive. Like we don't need to get on every rack. I'm thinking more that like if we have something else, like maybe another event that we're advertising, like for example, if we get valet parking at the Oyster Festival, then we could put, on maybe like the 10 racks that get the most usage around the city, we could just zip tie another ad like we did here. That seems a lot more doable to me than like trying to install something on every rack more permanently. Anyway, one other thing on this topic that you all should know is that I bought a domain. I bought bikenorwalk.org. And right now it just redirects to, and Emily just turned it back on. Thank you, Emily. So if you go to bikenorwalk.org, it currently redirects to this site. But once this is actually over, we can take that. My plan is to take that URL and redirect it to our commissions page. And likewise, we could buy Walk Norwalk. We could buy norwalkbikewalk.org. All sorts of URLs that we could share. I think it's not urgent. If you have ideas in that space, feel free to send them to me. But I do want to move on with the agenda for now. Christine, anything else you wanted to say about the scavenger hunt?
No, thanks, Tanner. I love this idea of the website here.
Awesome. Cool. Any sign of Judd yet? I don't see Judd. So we'll keep rolling, I guess. Judd has an agenda item that's next about swag procurement. So I'll leave that until he shows up. And everything else is from TMP, from Greg. So Greg, is it all right if you get started under the understanding that we might interrupt once Judd gets here?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Whatever we got to do. So a few updates from, obviously all these are all projects we've been updating you on periodically. So the Highland Avenue sidewalk project, which we've talked about, which is about a mile's worth of sidewalk on Highland Avenue from Charcoal Road all the way up to just north of Meredith Court. Hits Brian McMahon High School and also Brookside Elementary. We have got all the contract documents sent over to the company to begin construction. And that should be happening later this month once school kind of gets out. So we're hoping that, the work at least around the schools is complete throughout the summertime. And then once school begins for next session, then they'll move on to other parts of Highland Avenue. So we're quite excited. This has been years in the making. So we're excited to kind of get this project rolling and actually put a shovel in the ground and begin, building these sidewalks and making that much more of a walkable roadway and kind of, completing the rest of Highland Avenue. So we're looking forward to that commencing later this month. So we're quite excited about that. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Community connectivity grant, obviously the east-west, northwest bike routes, working with state DOT. We finalized all of our design plans for the encroachment permit along 136 with DOT.
Great. Can I pause you really quick?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of members of the public here and maybe people that aren't familiar with the route. So just to be very quick, the north, south, east, west bike routes that we're looking at are going to be at least half bike lanes. I think they're around half bike lanes and half
sharrows. It's like over 7 miles worth of dedicated bike lanes, and the remaining portion of the route is sharrows for the time being right now. We'll look to kind of move those into bike lanes as we kind of progress, but that's where we're kind of starting right now with that.
In particular, I want to point out that the north-south route goes from Rowayton, basically north to the New Canaan border, and goes right through Norwalk Community College. So we're hoping to improve connectivity to the community college. And then the east-west route also starts in Rowayton and follows 136. So it goes through the kind of industrial section that's also now going to be getting an elementary school. I don't know if anybody saw that in the news, but the city just bought they negotiated the purchase of a big plot of land where they're going to put an elementary school in South Norwalk. And our north-south bike route, if I'm not mistaken, goes right past that as well.
Yes, it does. Yep.
So then it continues through South Norwalk, over the bridge, into East Norwalk, and along 136 to the Westport border.
And Tanner, as we alluded to, we're just putting, design plans are finalized for the striping. Right now, we're just working with the Policy and Planning Bureau to finalize all the cost estimates and kind of, get the final submittal for, them to release the money. Obviously, the biggest thing is roadway paving management right now, especially with DOT. Later this summer, they're expecting to pave a good portion of 136. So we'll, obviously have to wait for that to happen first before we start, actually putting striping on pavement. So there'll be nice fresh pavement and, a new striping and along some areas along 136 as well. So
it's great that the scheduling worked out that way, so that we're going to get not only new paint, but also new pavement.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice. So later this summer, it won't get milled and paved. So that's actually good timing. So we're hoping to get this, to get this striped, by the end of the year, which we're very excited, because this is another project that's been years and years in the making, for those who don't know. So we want to move this forward, and then by spending the money for the connectivity grant, we're able to look for the next round of community connectivity from DOT, so we can apply for more money for other projects.
Oh, that's right, because our eligibility has kind of been tied up.
Yeah, so until we spend the money for this project, we can apply for other projects and other funding from DOT. So we want to get this done, get it paid for, and this way we can look for other mobility projects to do as well. So we definitely want to keep moving forward on this, as we continue through this year. Any questions on that? No? Okay. I know, Tanner, you had talked a little bit about the South Norwalk Garage bike racks. Do you want me to talk about that now, or did you want to wait?
I know we can talk about that now. We talked about it last meeting. What update do we have since last month?
So we're still working with Snyder Group. They're working on designs for the bike rack area and how they want to display it. And they're definitely going to add a kind of a graphic design component to it as well, to make sure it sticks out. For the cyclists when they come in. And then I know last meeting we did bring up the possibility of potentially putting in a Shero or something to kind of guide you into the garage. So we're kind of investigating, looking at State Street as you enter into the garage, that road off MLK. So we're looking at that and kind of looking to see if there's any potential, if we can add at least some, a dedicated bike facility, a bike lane into the entrance from State on State Street from MLK. That will kind of lead you into the garage and at least get you in, and then look for ways to get you out as well, because it is only one way going through there. You do have parking along the curb line there. So we're gonna look to see. We have to do some measurements, but we've been looking at it over the last couple of weeks and kind of seeing what we can do. Obviously, this is part of the Sono TOD project as well, but in the short term, see if we can do something in the interim to kind of guide cyclists into the garage. And then you'll have those graphics and the bike racks kind of popping out when you do go inside the garage.
Awesome. This is great work. Thanks, Greg.
Yes. Yep. And so like I said, we're trying to maximize that space. Get as many bike racks and greatest number of bikes we can get in there. So we'll keep you posted on that as we go forward. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. The Complete Streets RFP, those have closed. Obviously, the Complete Street, we're basically looking to have a design consultant draw us up a Complete Streets manual that the city will use as kind of the design standards is whenever we do, striping or any kind of roadway infrastructure projects. Obviously, engineering right now has their standard details that we obviously abide to when doing sidewalks and ramping and any kind of those infrastructure projects. So this will kind of build upon that and kind of set up, Complete Streets manual that will, if we're redoing an intersection and kind of take all those components and kind of, obviously Complete Streets and making, the best accommodations for all roadway users. So we're going to look at that, and they're going to put together a guidebook for us. And we have 2 qualified vendors that submitted. So for that, so we're going to go through the interview process and see which, puts out the, what we're looking for. We were very specific in what we put in the RFP and what we want to do. So we will keep you posted on that, and there is funding for it as well. So, we're quite excited to kind of get that rolling, because a lot of cities, they do have a Complete Streets manual, and that's something obviously we don't have now. So that's something that will be very helpful for us, especially moving in the future.
If I can just underscore the importance of this, Greg. So basically what this means is that anytime once these guidelines are drafted and adopted, assuming they are adopted, every single project that involves a road in Norwalk will have to conform to these new updated standards. And the whole point of this new standards is that they are designed to accommodate all users. That's the idea behind the term Complete Street.
Correct. And obviously, if you look at just the intersection per se, not all intersections are the same. There's going to, be some where you can't implement everything, but we want to make sure, this guidebook will help us in designing those projects to determine what we can and can't put in to each project and kind of maximize, what we get out of it, and maximize it for all users and get the most out of it that we can. So, so we're, the interview process for the 2 vendors are going to begin in the next week or 2, and so we should have, hopefully, after a little back and forth, we'll have that process to begin to start designing the guidebook.
Well, personally, I'm looking forward to that. And I think on behalf of the commission, I can say that we are all excited for the city to have Complete Streets legislation. You mentioned, Greg, that other cities do have it.
Yes.
I have read before that actually in Connecticut, it's only a handful of cities that do.
Yes, there's not many in Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the cities that are more ahead of the curve when it comes to bike infrastructure. But as I'm counting through here, I think it's only about 10. You know, on the order
I can't
of 10
imagine. Yeah, I'd say I wouldn't think it'd be more than 10 or 12 that have it in Connecticut. And, you know, there's obviously a lot of smaller towns that, you know, they don't have the funding for it.
Sure.
You know, most of the, you know, outside Connecticut, most of the cities that do have it are larger cities that do have the funding that are able to implement it. So, you know, so luckily we were able to secure the funding, and we're, you know, this is, you know, the first step of, you know, kind of moving forward in the future here when we're designing, you know, or redesigning roadways, I should say. So, yeah, awesome. We're looking to move that forward.
Christine's got her hand up. Christine, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thanks, Greg. So that's fantastic news. I'm wondering, what did you, I'm sorry, I may have missed this, your prediction of when that would be finished, the guidebook?
Well, I don't want to put a timeline in because we haven't picked a vendor as of yet.
Okay, that's okay.
We're going through the interview process. We're going to begin interviews over the next week or two. So, you know, it would be up to the consultant to kind of, you know, give us their timeline, because we want to make sure this is very thorough, very detailed. So I don't want to put a timeline on it, you know, for somebody else. So, but we'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because you know, we talked last year about doing the bike friendly community application for the League of American Bicyclists to get the, you know, go for the bronze award, maybe silver or the gold.
Yep.
So maybe after we have this, like that really is almost a shoo-in.
Well, by the time this comes out, and then we're able to implement the Connecticut Connectivity Grant, which will double the amount of bike lanes. A lot of the sidewalk projects that we're looking to implement as well, that will, you know, kind of grow our sidewalk infrastructure and improve our walk score as well. So that's all going to take into account and improve our score when we, you know, kind of apply for those, you know, achievements for the city.
Yeah, thank you. Because you alluded to that maybe 2 years ago, that there was more happening and to kind of put it off and wait. So it's very exciting. So I look forward to working on that with you in the future.
Yeah, no, us too. We're very excited about it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Moving on to the Wall Street Design Kickoff public meeting. Tanner, I don't know if you if everyone's seen that flyer yet. Obviously, everybody saw it was in the article in the paper. On June 14th, there will be an open public forum for anybody at the Wall Street Theater to kind of discuss the, you know, the Wall Street Improvement Project. Oh, there it is. Perfect. You know, and it just kind of builds upon, you know, the existing strengths and make improvements around. And, you know, there's going to be, we're hoping to get a lot of public support in this, and it's going to be very, you know, public driven. Unlike other, you know, public forums, this one is going to be kind of more individualized. We're going to have different stations, you know, to talk about on-street parking, intersections, you know, and you can have kind of a one-on-one discussion rather than just one person standing up there in front of 100 people saying, I want this, or we should do that. So this way the consultant will kind of get a glimpse of what people like. And, you know, we'll have like the consultant will have a poster board up, and you're able to say what, you know, you like, what you don't like. We'll also have, you know, historic photos as well from the Wall Street area up and around during the public forum as well. So, you know, it's really going to be kind of a, you know, a more scaled version where you kind of get more of a connection with the consultant, where they listen to more on an individual basis rather than, you know, having a limited number of people talk about what they want to see. So, you know, so all the components of the project will be discussed. So we would love, obviously, all the commission members and, you know, members of the public that are here tonight as well. We'd love to see you there as well, to kind of put your input in as well, because it's for, you know, it's for everybody to attend and kind of, you know, put their take on what they kind of visualize for, you know, for this project to look like going forward.
Awesome. A couple of things I want to point out here. Greg, thanks for the introduction. First of all, in this email, it says there's going to be samples from neighborhood restaurants, which I'm excited about. Correct. Although, for reasons that I'm going to get to later in the meeting, I actually won't be able to get to this meeting. I won't be there. So all of you need to go and talk about walking and biking, and also get some free food from the neighboring restaurants. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to call attention to, if you go to the project website here, which is, well, it was on that PDF. Oops. norwalkt.org/Wall Street Norwalk, right there. That takes you to this site, the digital home of the Wall Street Corridor Improvements Project. And if you go down, you can see this map that was on the PDF, and then what kinds of improvements are being considered. Look at like the first 6 bullet points there. They're all walking and biking. Safer intersections, slower vehicle speeds, making biking safer and more comfortable, widening sidewalks, improving pedestrian connections. Like, this is all great stuff.
And Tanner, before we even went out with the RFP for this project, for a design consultant, one of our major goals of this was to implement a dedicated bi-directional bike facility, because this is a major connection between West Avenue, and then also connecting up to East Avenue, which will tie into the West Rocks Road project that we're looking to do, and connecting the bike lanes that we're planning from that grant that we were able to get from Congressman Himes, and kind of making that major connection from Route 7 to all the way to Route 1, and then Park Avenue, and then, or Park Street, I should say, and then on Wall Street to take it to West Avenue and Belden Avenue, which have which has a bike lane on it as well. So this is an important corridor for biking and accessibility, for the future. So that's one of the main reasons why we want a continuous, bi-directional bike lane on this corridor.
Absolutely. If I can just make that same point in other words, to get from East Norwalk to West Norwalk and vice versa, you down south, you have to cross the river, right? And so you've got the bridge, what's the name of that bridge? I'm blanking.
The Yankee Doodle Bridge, I think.
No, that's the highway bridge.
Straffolino.
Straffolino, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, so you got the Straffolino Bridge here on Washington Street, and that's got bike lanes, which is great. We've got the 95 bridge, which has a pedestrian walkway that's been closed for like 2 years. Jim told me he talked to somebody in Condot and said that it was going to open soon. Maybe, is that on your radar, Greg? Have you heard anything?
I've not heard on that specific. I've not heard anything on that specific project.
All right. But just to finish this point, if you keep going up the river, you got Wall Street, and then kind of, if you consider this to be the border between East and West, you've got Route 1, which is kind of a hazard to bike on because it's a U.S. highway. And then to keep going up, then you get into residential streets here, where there's the connectivity is kind of funky at best. And then like between restaurants and other places, there's not a lot of connectivity either. Point is that, like Greg said, Wall Street is like a critical connection between East and West Norwalk, especially if you're on a bike. It's the only safe crossing basically currently, because this is closed, between Washington Street and some of these residential streets up here. So personally, I'm really glad that that TMP is making sure that we've got a good bike connectivity here. Chris, your hand is up. I think maybe it's left over from last time, and Alex's hand is up as well. Yeah, okay, Alex, go ahead.
I'd just like to say, as someone that lives in East Norwalk, right on Merrill, right by Route 1, I bike on Wall Street and bike through that area quite frequently. And as you said, Tanner, the biking on Route 1 is about as unpleasant as it gets for biking in Norwalk. And there's a lot of connections to and from good, safe, quieter roads with bike lanes, but there really isn't a good connection from East to West Norwalk along that route. So having like a good bike lane along Wall Street would be huge for me personally. I think it'd be really good for the community, because there's a bit of a disconnect between East Norwalk, South Norwalk, and there's not really like a good direct going to somewhere meaningful bike lane that's on the way to those places. Like the closest I can think is like Walker Street, I think it's called, to Sunset Hill, and then just going along Sunset Hill. Walter Street, Walter to Sunset Hill, and that's like a good, I don't know, half mile parallel to East Avenue. It's not really direct. Or Strawberry Hill, not Sunset Hill. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Strawberry Hill. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, completely agree. Thanks for your perspective, though, as somebody who lives up here. All right. Any other feedback or questions for Greg about Wall Street?
Okay, and then just one other update for everybody is just the paving schedule. Obviously we continue to meet with DPW on a weekly basis, and they give us updates on their paving schedule. They actually just updated it a couple weeks ago. Due to some roads having utility work on it, they've already actually started milling and paving roadways. I think they're in Rowayton right now doing some local roads, and they're kind of just jumping around the city, waiting on some utility projects to finish in some areas. And one of the examples that I just want to, kind of use is, obviously for the connectivity grant, we're looking to put bike lanes on Richards Avenue. And, I don't know if anyone's been on Richards Avenue lately, but the pavement isn't in that good a shape. So obviously to kind of grind and restripe, for the connectivity grant wouldn't really be something that would be beneficial to put on poor pavement. So in working with DPW, that was a road that's listed on as an amendment street. So we're looking to, DPW's kind of, if you look on the updated paving schedule on their website, it now has Richards Avenue, especially from Route 1 to Philo Street. And that's right along the connectivity grant route, north-south route, which is very important to this grant proposal. So we're excited to get that milled and paved, and then we can redo the entirety of the striping, which will definitely take those really wide lanes and narrow them, make it a little more conformed all the way, and kind of slow traffic, and put bike lanes in as well. So we're definitely looking to excited to have fresh pavement when we go stripe for the connectivity grant. And also another add on to that is also sidewalks that we're looking to add on, especially I don't know if anyone's looked at right near the Home Goods parking lot, right near Route 1, where there's a bus stop right there. There's no sidewalk right there, and there's sidewalks that goes and stops right off of Route 1. So we're looking to just extend that an extra 150 feet to the driveway, and then also extend it all the way up past the parking lot as well, and make us one full fluid connection of sidewalk from Route 1 and then all the way up Richards Avenue, instead of having it stop and start and having so many sidewalk gaps in there. So we're definitely excited to implement that as well when they repave.
No idea what that bug is.
Any questions?
Yeah, Greg, I have one quick one, just related to paving, but not necessarily the streets. Do you know what the progress is on the NRVT paving by any chance?
That I'm not sure about. I'll have to check in with Mike on that to see what. I know there were some delays with the contractor last time I heard. Oh, is he here? Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, Mike, are you there?
Yeah, we're still waiting on the DOT to approve the pavement mix.
Oh, okay. Any idea what the general time frame is? Weeks, month?
No, I'm not sure, Colin.
Okay. It's just kind of related to that for the rest of the commission. I don't know if anybody's kind of pre-rode the hard pack that's there, but I've been using it the past couple weeks to get up to Broad River and the Little League fields there for my kids' events. And it's I think once it's complete, it's going to be fantastic. It's really nice to be able to get out of the South Norwalk area and then transition to separated bicycle infrastructure, despite the few crossings, and the crossing by the AutoZone, I think up there on Belden Avenue is signalized pretty well, and then there's a nice duck under the highway, and that leaves you with the only relatively poor crossing is once you get up to what is that, 123, I think, in the Broad River area. Crossing that intersection is fairly wide and a little unsettling on a bike. But aside from that, it's a nice trip up there, and it gets you through quite a bit of town that's awkward. And I think it's going to be a real nice asset to the community to get people from that Broad River neighborhood down to South Norwalk without having to be on main roads, and vice versa. Getting people out of South Norwalk up to that area is going to be a pretty nice thing. So
yeah,
I encourage everybody to check it out when it's ready.
Yeah, hopefully we can get it rolling again and moving. So apologize for that, but can't control the mix.
We got some members of the public and with their hands up. Let's see who's up first. I think it looks, I don't know if I have that in order of who went first. So if you know that you went first, go ahead and unmute.
I think Audrey was first.
Go ahead, Audrey.
Yeah, Greg, great work in general. When you mentioned Richards Avenue, you know, being kind of in need of repaving and coming up to Philo, I live just off of Philo Street. Is there any? Philo is actually a huge rutted mess, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
So you know, one idea that came to mind just driving around lately is, can sidewalks be widened to become dedicated walking, biking pathways, a la the thread of LaGrange, Georgia, where they have basically a 8 or 10 foot wide sidewalk that accommodates both pedestrians and cyclists with a kind of a dotted line in the middle, like you'd have with 2-lane road.
Right.
Instead, because I notice a lot of people bike on sidewalks because it's safe.
Yep.
And there aren't too many pedestrians. So I'm just wondering, do we have to, I mean, besides Sharrows and having to wonder and worry about repaving streets, could we better use of sidewalks by widening them and making them safe, dedicated bike walking paths?
Well, some, you know, obviously when you do look at something like that, you need the right of way in order to put a 10 foot, you know, it's a minimum of 10 foot for a mixed use path like that along the road. You know, so what we're doing on Richards is putting in dedicated bike lanes. So we'll have a sidewalk and a bike lane. You know, unfortunately, we don't have the funding to do a, you know, I forgot what, probably 1.5 miles worth of a multi-use path along the whole corridor, which would be very pricey. So what we have with the connectivity grant with striping, we're going to get a dedicated bike lane on both sides, you know, from Route 1 to Philo Street. And then we're going to fill in those gaps where there aren't any sidewalks. So we'll still have, you know, pedestrian access, you know, separated. And then we'll also have a separated bike facility, dedicated bike facility, you know, within the roadway.
And what about Philo Street itself? Because that's in need of repaving too. Is that a possibility for?
I haven't looked at Philo Street as far as when it's planned to be repaved. I'm sure it's on there within the next couple of years. Obviously, Philo Street's pretty long, so it might be in segments, but I don't know what that's, you know, kind of more of a DPW question to see what the pavement will tell them, you know, what the pavement management, you know, what that number is as far as when the pavement is in need of it being redone. So it might be done in the next couple of years, but I can't say that for a fact.
Right. It's a great connector from the hospital area.
Yep.
all the way to Fox Run with a couple of schools. So it's a great long run that connects a lot of stuff. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay,
Yeah. No, I can't say I haven't looked at Phil, because I have, especially coming off of the connectivity route, because it goes up Fox Run where Philo Street splits. So we definitely looked at that portion to kind of continue that bike lane at some point. So we definitely want to take a look at that, you know, moving forward. But our main goal right now this year is to get that connectivity grant done, striped, and, you know, first Richards needs to be repaved.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg.
Got it. Thank you, Audrey.
So I want to comment on that, and then I'll turn it over to Ben. I wish that we had time to talk about lots of individual streets, individual spots around town. But most of the time, if you have feedback about a specific street, especially if it needs if it needs to be addressed, if there's an issue there. The best course of a better course of action than bringing it up in this meeting is to submit it through customer service, because then it will get directed to either TMP or to DPW, depending on whose responsibility that is. And it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily go out and fix it immediately. Sometimes they will, but that's like, you know, if you tell me, if you tell Greg, ultimately that's where we would have to forward it anyway. The city's big enough that they have to keep organized that way. If you would like, you can additionally tell me so that I can kind of keep a running counter in my head of where the hot spots are. And if there's enough hot spots that people tell me about, then I can escalate it as well as I can. And maybe Greg can too. But typically with one-off things, the first thing to do is to go to customer service. And if it doesn't get resolved that way, then maybe bring it up here so we can escalate it. With that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ben.
Yeah, is my mic still working?
Yep.
I don't know what problem I had earlier, but cool. Yeah, at the intersection of Richards and Route 1, are there sidewalks or crosswalks planned for that intersection?
So that obviously that's, you know, it's a state road. So we obviously, that's a terrible intersection for pedestrians. You know, very long crossings. You know, the signal timings aren't that good either. So it's not conducive for pedestrian crossings. So there is a Route 1 corridor study that is going to commence soon, that we have funding for. And this is definitely an intersection that needs to be addressed at some point, to kind of address that. So unfortunately, that's kind of part of a larger project, especially with DOT. As far as the connectivity grant, this doesn't touch that at the moment, but it's definitely an intersection that's been identified and, you know, is in definite need of improvement for pedestrians for sure.
So it's more for cyclists, the connectivity grant.
The connectivity, yeah, because the connectivity grant is, you know, the funds that we have is all for striping, and there's the only sidewalk project that's tied to the connectivity grant is on Hunter's Lane, between Lancaster Drive and Ponus Ave, which is about 1,100 feet. That's the only sidewalk portion that's part of the connectivity grant. The rest of it is striping only, for the money that we receive. There's unfortunately not enough for infrastructure work, you know, any more than that 1,100 linear feet of sidewalk. Sidewalks are very expensive these days. The prices that we've been seeing are rather, you know, even ones we compared to last year, some prices for items have almost doubled.
Wow.
So, and the labor is limited in a lot of areas as well. So it's very difficult to get, you know, to get sidewalk projects with the, you know, limited sidewalk project money that we have, and get those built. So there's, you know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we just completed a sidewalk audit of the entire city, which will help us identify where our missing sidewalk gaps are and where non-compliant ADA ramps are. So we can kind of prioritize and pinpoint those areas that need it the most and kind of fill those gaps in the sidewalk. We need to know where these sidewalk gaps are. You know, instead of just pointing them out individually, we'll have that in a query where we can see everything visually at one time. So that's definitely going to help us out. And VHB, who's been working on that project for the last year, completed the inventory and is just putting together the database and the mapping process right now.
Any estimate on when they're going to deliver that, Greg?
It should be, I mean, they're, like I said, they're done. They're just building their, you know, their kind of platform right now with everything. So I'm hoping within the next month or two, they'll have it all completed for us to start viewing. They have the layers at an individual basis and the attributes where we can see it, but it needs to be built into the system, the SAMIS software that they have specifically for the sidewalks. So we can query everything and get what we need out of it.
Would it be possible for you or maybe for Kyle, because I think Kyle's the one who's going to be using that data the most, to like present a summary of that once it arrives in our meeting?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Yeah,
cool. Any other TMP updates or questions about the paving schedule? I think for the agenda we do need to move on.
Yeah,
but
that's it for me, Tanner. So if anybody has any questions, happy to answer.
All right. Well, I want to acknowledge that Judd has finally joined. Thank you, Judd, for joining. Judd is traveling right now and is joining the meeting notwithstanding. So thank you, Judd. We have been putting off the section on budget modifications because we need Judd to have a quorum. We finally have a quorum. I'm going to introduce this. We have a cool opportunity here. Because the NRVT got delayed, we were planning on having an NRVT grand opening, and when we voted on the budget a few months ago, we allocated $1,500 to this NRVT grand opening. And the grand opening is now going to happen, ideally, like best case scenario, it'll happen in September or October. But our fiscal year, our budget year ends in June at the end of this month. So any budget that we have left over, which is quite a bit still, needs to be used by the end of June. So we had this 1,500 allocated, and then we also had 2,000 that was allocated that we were just basically going to give to TMP to contribute to the bike racks in the Sono garage. Because this has kind of all happened at the last minute, I've been having conversations with people indirectly, but I want to vote on it to make it formal tonight. There's a seminar at Harvard that's taught by the guy who's not in charge. He wrote the book on walkability. His name is Jeff Speck. Judd has a long time history of giving people a copy of this book who show up to commission meetings. So if you haven't gotten one, at this point, actually, I just ordered a new set of these books. So ask me if you want a copy of this book. But it's essentially a guide to how to make a city walkable. Another thing that happened recently, back in January or February, Barb McCabe, who was a commissioner, had to step down because she's moving to Vermont. I think she has moved at this point. But Barb was kind of our walkability champion on the commission. Barb didn't ride a bike, so she was on the commission purely for walking. And when she stepped down, she specifically requested that we focus more on walking because as great as biking is, it's only part of the solution for our city. And all of the current commissioners, we all ride bikes and we love bikes. And so as a result, we tend to focus a lot on the bike issues. And that's something that Barb called out when she resigned. She said, if you can, especially if you can find more people on the commission who can focus on walking, I would really like that so that it doesn't get forgotten. So what I would like to do is I would like to focus more on walking. And I would like the commission to do it as well. What the opportunity that I found is that this guy who wrote the book on walkability teaches a seminar at Harvard every summer. It's a 2-day seminar, and I'm going to propose that we use the rest of the money in the budget to send me and Vanessa Valladares from DPW, who I've been talking to. She's the principal engineer for the city. That means all the engineers that work for Public Works report up through her. She's been a traffic engineer for 25 years. I think she worked in Stanford before she worked here. And she has agreed to go with me as long as we can provide the funding for her. The cost is pretty steep to send somebody. It's $1,600 for tuition per person. I can get a third of that covered by my employer through like a continuing education benefit. But so that comes out to about $1,000 for me and then $1,600 for Vanessa. And that would send us both to this conference. My goal, the vision here is that we would both come back, especially Vanessa, with a lot better of an understanding of like the practical aspects of how to get the work done in our city to make it more walkable. And especially in Public Works, since they're responsible for maintaining the streets. We know that that Jim and Garrett from TMP and people like Greg, everybody who works for them, we're more involved with them. You know, we see a lot more of what's going on there. And I would like to have that same sort of relationship with DPW, and we don't have that right now. So that's what led me to reach out to Vanessa in the first place to go. But in order to spend the money, we do need to vote on it. So I'm going to open it up to anybody who wants to comment or ask questions about this idea. Sherry, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Am I mute or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I really want to encourage walkability also. I do bike, but I have limited abilities right now because I had a major surgery. But one of the reasons I go on this panel is to learn more about the walking and how I can get involved and help encourage walking through the town too. So I really encourage and support you guys going to this seminar. I think it's really important because there are a lot of people that are not able to bike for many, many reasons. from, and also it's walkability is also important for people with disabilities that can get around. And so that's one of the things I'd like to help do if you get to that point, but I do encourage you going to the seminar. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sherry. I hope that I can come back with a lot more ideas for how to put you to work, because it seems like you're excited to help.
Oh, I really am. I mean, anything I'll do.
Great. I mean,
I ride a bike because I'll fall off right now.
I think the sidewalk audit is a big piece of the solution for how to improve the sidewalk network in the city. But walkability is more than just sidewalk connectivity, although that plays a huge part. So I think that's a huge part of the solution, and I look forward to that coming out so that TMP can focus on that. But all the other little things, I think that if we can be more well informed about that, then we can start finding things to do to support TMP, right? Instead of just asking them to do more things. So any other questions? Sherry, yeah.
I did have one question. I don't know if it's relevant to bring it up now or not, but is there going to be anything at Pride in the Park on Saturday about the bike commission or walking?
That's a great question. The short answer is no, because I dropped the ball. Somebody mentioned it to me about a month ago, and I looked into it, and it looked pretty expensive to get a booth. And I thought maybe there might be an alternative way to get a booth if we're a nonprofit, but I dropped the ball and I never contacted anybody about that. So that's on me. But it's the kind of exposure that we'd love to have. And also we'd love to support the Pride Festival. Right. So next year, if somebody else wants to take that on and get in contact with the Pride Festival, and
I would do that.
Great. You're hired.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be there Saturday helping out.
Awesome. Yeah. If you know who to talk to about whether we could get a spot for, less than like the $1,200
I'll check that out. Sure.
For business. That'd be awesome. Cool. Christine, you've got your hand up.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, just to speak to that, it is expensive even for the nonprofits, but.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it's at least 200, maybe 250.
Oh, that's doable. Like that's.
Yeah, it might be a little more. But anyway, we did talk about it before. I think it's good to have a table at these events if we can do it.
Yeah, completely agreed. I think I shied away from it because originally I saw the business price and it was like a few $1,000s, like, a hefty chunk of our yearly budget. But, if we could get the nonprofit price for 200 or so, that'd be awesome. But we'll see what Sherry comes back with. Although, Delene, if you can mute Sherry, that would be great. I think she had to take one.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, Christine, your hand's still up. Was that just left over? Or do you have another question? Okay, cool. Yeah, any other questions about the budget? I guess maybe before we put it to a vote, we can have Judd report on. Judd's been working on a different part of the budget, making sure that we've got swag to give away at our events. Do you want to give the quick update now, Judd?
Yeah, it's the order has been placed. We got pricing from 2 vendors. TransTrade from Trumbull, Connecticut was just under the budget amount that we had. And so we're in the process of, the order's been placed and waiting for it to come. So it's, if I remember correctly, 160 helmets, 200 water bottles, 200 string bags, and 200 Norwalk Bike Walk stickers. So next time we have a table at an event, like we did at the Earth Day event a few weeks ago, where we pretty much only had string bags to hand out, we will now have water bottles and helmets.
That's awesome.
So
you said it came in right under budget, and it looks like I got the spreadsheet up here for the budget. It looks like we allocated just under 4,000 for the swag.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it came in at 38 something.
Great.
So I can't stay in the meeting. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the funding as Tanner explained, to send Tanner and Vanessa, the principal engineer, to the event in Boston, the Jeff Speck event, and looking for someone else to second that.
I'll second it, Judd. I think it's a fantastic idea. And if we're going to send anybody from the city at this point, it should probably be the principal engineer from.
Yeah, I think it's great idea to ask her, Tanner. Thank you for thinking of that.
So do somebody
Cool.
needs to say
Yeah,
that?
so it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Christine put her hand up. Okay. Thanks, Christine. So with our quorum of 4, I think it passes unanimously.
Good.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to take copious notes, and I will put an agenda item for next month to report on everything that I learned. And maybe we can even get Vanessa to come and report on what she learned.
Yeah, that would be great.
Cool.
Maybe how her thinking was changed by it, maybe.
Yeah, we're hoping.
Yeah.
Although she did mention that she has a copy of Walkable City, and I think she said she read
probably
it.
I gave it to her. So.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, Tanner,
you gonna drop out?
Else we need to vote on, or can I?
Yeah, I think we need to do the minutes, Tanner. You got the minutes.
Yeah, let's approve the minutes. Delene, as always, takes great notes. I've linked to the minutes in the agenda. I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes from last month.
Okay, and I'll second that.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's got a hand up? Awesome. Cool. Judd, thanks for joining in.
Okay. And
motion to adjourn.
Well, we have an agenda item that was a late breaking item from Julia from the health department. And since we still have 10 minutes, unless there's opposition, I'd like to let Julia talk about the health department for a minute. Is that okay? Cool.
Hi,
I guess.
Everybody.
I think.
Oh, sorry, Tanner. Go ahead.
Delene, do we need to formally suspend the agenda to give Julia some time? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to give Julia the time. All right, then we'll just go ahead, Julia.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Julia. I'm from the health department. A large area of my work is focused on Norwalker program, and an aspect of the goal of the program is to encourage walking in the community. So that's the purpose. So since it's summertime and the weather's nice, we have been planning walks for the month of June on Wednesdays. We call them Walking Wednesdays, and we have Norwalker walking maps that we created and put on the city's website. Some of them are translated in Spanish as well. And we are going to do walks every Wednesday at 6 p.m. using different Norwalker walking maps. So anybody from the community can join us, you guys. You guys can bring your family members, kids are welcomed, just anyone. We just want people to get out and walk. So this Wednesday's walk is going to be at it's going to begin at Tracy School. And we sent it out to the parents of Tracy School, and we're just trying to get people to walk. So we're planning July's calendar because we're planning on continuing Walking Wednesdays. Right now we're working with Norwalk Acts and the Early Childhood Council to possibly plan a walk-in talk for one of the Wednesdays. And then we have a few other ideas for the other Wednesdays in July. So we're going to create a calendar for that and put it up on the website just where you were, Tanner, just now. But the calendar for June is up on the website right there. If you scroll down, we weren't able to walk last week, unfortunately, because of the rain. So this is our first Walking Wednesday of June. So that's one thing that we have going on. Another quick program
how far or how long do the walks usually last?
So we're trying to stick with, each map has about 3 loops on them. We're trying to stick around a mile, the loops that are about a mile and a half. We don't want to, some of the routes can be really long. So we're trying to stick with the routes that aren't too long. We don't want people out too late.
You are using the routes from the maps.
Correct. Yep.
Great.
So we're using the routes from the maps, and we tell you where to meet us on the calendar. And if you have any questions, you can call me or email me too about that. The second program that we have is that we just launched is the Stair Wellness Program. We're still working on recruitment for that. We're looking for any employer interested in worksite wellness that has an accessible stairwell and elevator to all employees. This program will basically encourage employees to take the stairs instead of the elevator to increase physical activity throughout the day. And then we're also going to drop off materials and possibly do some educational sessions with the employees about increasing their physical activity through walking and different things like that. So it's kind of customized to the employer what they think would work best for their work site. But we're just looking to recruit anybody. We're gonna order the signage and everything that we need for the program soon. So if you know any employers in Norwalk with a stairwell and elevator in their building that their employees can choose from either one, that's a perfect place to implement this program. So I do have a flyer with the front is a flyer and then the back of it is kind of like an informational letter to invite them to participate in this program. So we have that as well. Tanner, I don't know if I send that to you, are you able to send it out to everybody? Okay, perfect.
I was just checking my inbox to see if you've already sent it to me.
No, I can send it to you right after this meeting to see if you can send it out, but I would appreciate that. And then I'll send you the flyer for Walking Wednesday and the link. And then the last thing that we have going on is the summer concert series. We're hoping to do a walk at the summer concert series. So we're just kind of trying to finalize plans for that. If we can do a walk for that, just to encourage physical activity in Norwalk and allow people to know that it's easy to walk, it can be safe, and it's fun and a great way to get your physical activity in for the day. So that's the last thing that we're working on. So we'll keep you updated on that stuff. I would encourage, if you know anybody that's interested in physical activity, to encourage them to follow us on Facebook. We also have an Instagram and Twitter, and that is where we put up our calendars or any walks that we have up and coming. And of course, cancellations as well if it's due to the weather. But yeah, that's pretty much what the health department has going on. If you guys are interested in attending any of our walks, please feel free to come out and bring your family or tell anyone that you know.
Thanks, Julia. Just to make sure I'm understanding this right, the summer concert series is also on Wednesdays, it looks like.
Yes, so we're gonna have to probably pick one or the other for the upcoming Wednesday, but we haven't planned July, the beginning of July. We're planning on doing the ages and stages questionnaire walk and talk. So we'll have to plan different dates, but yes, we might have to substitute some of the Walking Wednesdays and do the summer concert series instead.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, in particular, Julia, do you have Emily's email address? Emily has been helping me out a lot with our social media and like our mailing list, which is how this is going to go out.
I don't. Do you mind sending it to me?
Yeah, I will connect you guys.
Okay, perfect.
I just took notes on all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily.
Cool. Anything else from the health department, Julia?
No, not really.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for planning events that get people out and walking. What Julia was talking about with physical activity and how it's related to biking and walking reminded me, I'm going to make a quick recommendation, then we can close the meeting. There's a podcast called Active Towns that I've discovered recently. It's hosted by this guy who's just really passionate about making cities easier for what he calls active transportation, which I think is a great way to think about biking and walking. A way to get around that's also good for your body. So Active Towns, they put out a ton of content. Actually, the reason that I learned about the seminar that I'm going to at Harvard is through an Active Towns podcast episode where they interviewed Jeff Speck. And he was talking about his book and how actually there's a 10th anniversary edition of the book coming out this November. I just pre-ordered it today, actually. And then he also was talking about this course that he teaches at Harvard every summer. But that was just one episode, and there's lots of good episodes with, and basically he interviews people all over. Most of the episodes are interviews with people all over the country. They're doing basically the same thing that we're doing, which is like on the local level, trying to make the city more conducive to active transportation, biking and walking. So I encourage you all to go check that out. If I were to recommend a single episode, I don't know. I will get back to you on that. But yeah, go check out the podcast. With that said, I will go ahead and move to adjourn unless somebody has a final comment. Alrighty, then I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Cool. Christine? Great. Christine says yes. Thanks everybody for coming, and I'll see you next month.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.